Generating funding is only one part of implementing the health program. I will also need to allocate resources and develop the health materials to include the pamphlets, brochures, billboards, and radio announcements. Obviously, all before program implementation. The final thing that we will do before we fully implement the health campaign is ensure that the local health facilities, our partners and stakeholders, are completely on board with all of the interventions we set up, obviously prior to implementation. This is to ensure that the resources we are advertising are in fact available, and to prevent anyone from recanting their offer for participation. So ensuring that they are willing to participate will be key to the program success. Additionally, because this health program will span several years, maintaining momentum throughout the entire implementation process is key. We will do this by recruiting volunteers, promoting the health message in various new and different ways, and accurately reporting the successes and failures of the program. Obviously, the successes will generate a little bit more momentum than failures, but accurately reporting both will allow us to change and update the program as needed. So accurately reporting both will be key to maintaining momentum for this program throughout its entire duration. So we'll now talk about the different barriers we anticipate to encounter and how we plan to overcome them. So the potential barriers we've identified, obviously the cooperation. The program Healthy Heart relies heavily on collaboration between the MD, HHS, and local health facilities. Should they not participate or they choose not to collaborate with us, that would obviously be a very big barrier we would have to overcome. Another barrier that we anticipate is apparent when we consider that many public health services, like the ones that we're advertising, are government funded. So should state funding be cut or budgets, be limited for our health program, obviously resources will be negatively affected. And finally, if we are unable to effectively communicate our health message and health information to our target audience due to inadequate compensation for health literacy, then that would be a huge barrier. We anticipate having to compensate for health literacy, which is why this barrier has been identified. The solutions to these barriers are as follows. So to overcome the potential collaboration barrier, we will ensure cooperation early in the planning process. So we're going to reach out to each of the representatives in each health facility and discuss entering a contract with them for a minimum of 5 years. This will ensure that we will be able to offer the proposed resources to our target population for a longer period than just the initial implementation. Obviously, the stakeholders that agree to participate in the program will be advertised, and we will let our target population know that they can go to these places for the health screenings. We will also plan to reapproach stakeholders and health facilities after initial program implementation and success to see if they would be willing to reconsider their participation. This would be to broaden the resources available to the target population. To overcome the funding barrier, we will seek alternate funding sources to include Michigan State University and Lansing Community College. In addition, there are many federal grants available to health programs and for health initiatives like Healthy Heart. So we will pursue funding through those avenues. And finally, to overcome the potential communication barrier, we will follow the health belief model as described previously, which will force us to develop demographic appropriate materials, which will compensate for any health literacy disparities. And in addition, we will continuously evaluate the effectiveness of our interventions, and this will allow us to make changes and modifications should one intervention prove to be inadequately communicating our health message. So let us now take a look at the anticipated program outcomes. The first of which is an increased knowledge in the causative factors for cardiovascular disease. Obviously, this includes the risk factors, and for women in particular, the increased risk after age 50, after menopause. The second measurable outcome we have is increased knowledge of personal susceptibility. So that is how these causative factors relate to each woman individually. We want to see them be able to recognize the risk factors and in their lifestyle, and how that makes them more personally susceptible to developing cardiovascular disease. Next, we want to see an increased usage of the prevention services. We're offering these services for free, so we would like to see an increased usage of them. And finally, a decreased prevalence of cardiovascular disease in the community as a whole. All right, so now we will explore how these outcomes will be measured. This will be through the evaluation process. So the evaluation method that we selected is the penetration, implementation, participation, and effectiveness impact metric, also known as the PIPE impact metric. So the first two steps, penetration, which requires a health needs assessment to be completed, and of course implementation, have already been described. So we're going to jump right into the third component of the PIPE metric, which is participation. So as the cardiovascular disease program that we're talking about is a population health program, the protocol for enrollment and participation in the program is simply outlined as women within the community who seek preventative services and receive health education. That seems broad, I know, but the participation will be measured with a volunteer sample group that is representative of the larger population, and the data collected from the sample will be compared to health trends within the community. We will reassess this focus group every 6 months, so biannually. This will give us a continuous idea of the subjective interpretation of our health program. The final metric of the PIPE method is effectiveness. Obviously, this refers to the success of the participants as a result of the program design. So in order to assess the effectiveness, the parameters of success need to be outlined prior to implementation, so we can recognize when a goal is achieved. So we have identified success for the Heart Health Program in two parts. The first is when the sample group subjectively reports a significant increase in their understanding of cardiovascular health, and second, when the target population at large seeks and receives preventative services from the health facility. We have identified the mixed methods approach to data collection. That is, we will be assessing our program through both quantitative and qualitative methods. So we will obtain baseline data prior to program implementation, and we will assess quantitatively the morbidity and mortality rates of our target population with cardiovascular disease in Lansing, Michigan. This will give us, like I said, our baseline quantitative data. Qualitatively, we will have a focus group with women between the ages of 30 and 50, where we will assess their subjective understanding of cardiovascular health, as well as other facets to include their personal susceptibility, etc. Periodically after implementation, we will assess, we will reassess these parameters. We will obtain the prevention services. We will do this quarterly, and this will give us an ongoing quantitative measurement. In addition, the focus groups, as previously stated, will be held biannually. We will have different members each time, so we won't have obviously the same members coming back. So just different members of our population will be subjectively asked about the program and their understanding of heart health. And then finally, the website that we've developed will have an option to complete a brief online survey that will ask the people who choose to take it if they about their understanding of cardiovascular health. So through these means, we will have a continuous flow of information to reassess the program effectiveness. Finally, we will take a look at the future application of this information. So we will use the information obtained through the evaluation process to generate support from the community as well as potential stakeholders. Obviously, health promotion programs rely heavily on community support, so showing the community, providing data that reflects the program's positive impact on the lives of community members will be greatly impactful. Next, we will obviously use this information to change and modify our different interventions as needed. So if we find that one is less effective than the others, we can reassess the intervention and the methods, and we will change and modify them. And then finally, of course, is research dissemination. So we will publish and disseminate the results of the program evaluations, whether they are good or whether they are bad, and this will enable health educators elsewhere to design their programs with consideration of heart health, the heart health program. So this is how we plan to use the information that we gathered during this stage of the cardiovascular disease prevention program. So I want to thank you all again for your time and attention here today. For more information on Healthy Heart and ways you can get involved, please contact me at any time. Thank you.